The space station Zenith Prime floated in the darkness like a massive wheel of lights. It was home to over 10,000 beings from across the galaxy. Humans, aliens with scales, aliens with fur, aliens that looked like walking crystals. All of them lived and worked together in peace. But today, peace felt fragile. Jiho stepped off the transport ship and looked around the docking bay. His heart beat fast with excitement. This was his first assignment in deep space. After 3 years of training on Earth, he was finally here. He clutched his single bag tighter and smiled. Everything was new. Everything was amazing. "Welcome to Zenith Prime," a bored voice said through the speakers. "Please proceed to the main corridor for check-in." Jiho walked through the metal doors. The corridor stretched ahead, wide and bright. Beings of all kinds moved past him. Some floated. Some walked on 4 legs. Some had wings folded against their backs. He tried not to stare, but it was hard. On Earth, he had only seen aliens on screens. Then something changed. The corridor ahead emptied in seconds. Beings scattered into side passages. Some pressed themselves against the walls. A tall blue alien actually ran away, its 6 legs moving so fast it became a blur. Jiho stopped walking. What was happening? A shadow fell across the floor. Jiho looked up and forgot how to breathe. The creature walking toward him was massive. It stood at least 8 feet tall, maybe more. Its body was covered in dark armor that looked like it had grown from its skin. 4 arms hung at its sides, each ending in clawed hands. Its head was angular and sharp, with no nose that Jiho could see. But the eyes, 2 glowing points of amber light, those he could not look away from. The creature walked slowly, deliberately. Each step made a soft clicking sound on the metal floor. It did not look left or right. It simply moved forward like a mountain that had learned to walk. Jiho's training kicked in. "Move aside. Let it pass. Don't make eye contact." His body refused to obey. He stood frozen in the middle of the corridor. The creature came closer. 10 meters. 8 meters. 5 meters. Jiho finally forced his legs to move. He stepped to the side, pressing his back against the wall. The creature passed by him, close enough that Jiho could have reached out and touched it. He did not. He held his breath and waited. As the creature moved past, Jiho caught a smell. It was not unpleasant. It reminded him of old libraries and stone temples. Ancient, that was the word. This creature felt ancient. Then it was gone, disappearing around a corner. The corridor slowly filled with beings again. They emerged from hiding spots, talking in hushed voices. Jiho's knees felt weak. He leaned against the wall and breathed deeply. "First time seeing him?" a voice asked. Jiho turned. A woman stood next to him. She was human, older than him, with kind eyes and tired smile. Her uniform said she worked in the science department. "Who? What was that?" Jiho asked. "That's Kael'thar," the woman said. She looked down the corridor where the creature had gone. "He's been here for 3 months. Everyone calls him the Ancient One. Why does everyone run?" The woman shrugged. "Because they're smart. Come on, you look new. I'll walk with you to check in. I'm Hana, by the way. Xenoanthropologist, geoengineer." They walked together. Hana explained while they moved. Kael'thar was not from any known species. He came from a race called the Velkari. They had ruled parts of the galaxy thousands of years ago. Then they vanished. All of them. Gone without explanation. "We found his ship 6 months ago," Hana said. "It was drifting near the outer rim, dead in space. When we opened it, we found him in a stasis pod. Still alive after all this time. How long?" Jiho asked. 3,000 years, give or take." Jiho stopped walking. 3,000? That's impossible. "His technology is beyond ours," Hana said. "The stasis pod kept him perfectly preserved. When we woke him up, he was difficult." "Difficult how?" Hana's face darkened. "He nearly killed the first team that approached him. Not on purpose, I think. He was confused, defensive. Since then, he's calmed down, but he won't talk to anyone. He just walks around the station looking at things. Studying us, maybe." They reached the check-in station. Jiho registered his details while Hana waited. His mind was not on the paperwork. He kept thinking about those glowing eyes. "Has anyone tried to communicate with him?" Jiho asked. "Many people," Hana said. "Diplomats, scientists, even warriors from other species. He ignores them all. The only time he reacts is when someone gets too close. Then he makes this sound." She shuddered. "It's like a growl from the bottom of a well. Everyone who's heard it has nightmares for weeks." "But he hasn't hurt anyone since waking up?" No, but that's what makes it worse. We don't know what he wants. We don't know what he's thinking. The Confederation is worried. They're talking about putting him back in stasis for everyone's safety. Jiho frowned. Something about that felt wrong. The creature, Kael'thar, had not seemed aggressive when it passed him. It had seemed sad. Could ancient aliens feel sadness? He did not know. Hana showed him to his quarters. They were small but clean. A bed, a desk, a window showing the stars outside. Jiho thanked her and closed the door. He sat on the bed and stared at his hands. They were still shaking slightly. Over the next few days, Jiho settled into his work. He fixed broken systems, upgraded old equipment, and learned the layout of the station. It was good work. He enjoyed it. But he could not stop thinking about Kael'thar. He saw the ancient warrior several times, always from a distance. Always alone. Kael'thar walked the same routes each day. Morning in the observation deck. Afternoon near the research labs. Evening in the empty cargo bay. He never ate in the cafeteria. He never spoke to anyone. Other crew members talked about him in whispers. They shared theories. Maybe he was a weapon waiting to activate. Maybe he was studying them to find weaknesses. Maybe he was just crazy from being alone for so long. Jiho noticed things others did not mention. When Kael'thar stood in the observation deck, he touched the glass gently. When he walked past the gardens, he slowed down to look at the earth flowers. When music played from somewhere, his head tilted as if listening carefully. These were not the actions of a weapon. These were the actions of someone curious, someone lonely. One evening, Jiho was working late in a maintenance corridor. He heard the clicking footsteps and knew who was coming. He should leave. Everyone left when Kael'thar approached. But his tools were scattered around him. Leaving meant leaving his equipment behind. The footsteps came closer. Jiho kept working, trying to look calm. His heart hammered in his chest. Kael'thar rounded the corner and stopped. The glowing eyes fixed on Jiho. For a long moment, neither moved. Jiho swallowed hard and met those eyes. He did not run. He did not hide. He simply looked back. Kael'thar's head tilted slightly. One of his 4 hands moved, fingers spreading. It might have been a threat. It might have been a question. Jiho could not tell. Hello, Jiho said quietly. His voice shook. I'm just fixing the power relay. I'll be done soon. The ancient warrior said nothing. He stared at Jiho for another moment, then continued walking. As he passed, Jiho saw something he had not noticed before. There were symbols carved into Kael'thar's armor. They looked like writing, but not any language Jiho knew. When Kael'thar disappeared around the next corner, Jiho let out a breath he did not know he was holding. His hands were shaking again, but something was different this time. He was not afraid. He was curious. Who was Kael'thar, really? What had his life been like before the long sleep? What did it feel like to wake up and find your entire species gone? Jiho packed up his tools slowly. An idea was forming in his mind. It was probably stupid. It might even be dangerous. But he could not shake it. Everyone was afraid to get close to Kael'thar. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe the ancient warrior was not dangerous. Maybe he was just alone. And Jiho knew what it felt like to be alone. Jiho could not sleep that night. He kept thinking about Kael'thar walking alone through empty corridors. He thought about being the last person alive from Earth. No one to talk to. No one who remembered the same songs or foods or stories. Just emptiness and strangers who feared you. The thought made his chest ache. In the morning, he found Hana in the research lab. She was studying holographic displays of ancient star maps. When Jiho walked in, she looked up and smiled. Can't stay away from the mysterious alien, can you? She asked. Jiho felt his face grow warm. Is it that obvious? You're the 5th person this month who's asked me about him, Hana said. She gestured to a chair. Sit, what do you want to know? Everything, Jiho said. What were the Valkyrie like? What happened to them? Hana's expression grew serious. She pulled up new images on her display. They showed a planet with silver cities and purple skies, ships that looked like they were grown rather than built, beings that looked like Kael'thar, but wearing flowing clothes and gathered in groups. The Valkyrie were warriors, Hana said, but not just fighters. They were philosophers, artists, builders. They believed that strength and beauty were the same thing. Every weapon they made was also a work of art. Every building was also a fortress. What happened to them? No one knows, Hana said. 2,000 years ago, they just disappeared. All of them, all at once. Their cities were left intact. Their ships were still in orbit. But every living Velkari was gone. Some people think they transcended to another dimension. Others think a plague killed them. Some even think they chose mass suicide for religious reasons. And Kael'thar? We think he was put in stasis before it happened, Hana said. The computer logs on his ship are damaged, but we found fragments. The Velkari knew something was coming. They put their greatest warriors in stasis pods and sent them out in different directions. Maybe they hoped one would wake up to rebuild their civilization. Jiho looked at the images of the dead cities, but he woke up to nothing. Exactly, Hana said quietly. Imagine that. You go to sleep thinking your people need you. You wake up to find everyone you ever knew is dead. Your entire species is just gone, and the new beings you meet are terrified of you. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jiho asked, "Has anyone tried to just talk to him? Not as a diplomat or scientist, but as a person?" Hana shook her head. "Commander Taeyang forbids it. Too dangerous. Kael'thar has a translator device, but it's damaged. He can understand us, we think, but he can't speak back. Or won't. Every time someone approaches him with official business, he just walks away." "What about unofficial business?" Hana gave him a sharp look. "Don't do anything stupid, Jiho. You're young and new here. Kael'thar could hurt you without even meaning to. Those forearms. We've scanned him. Each one can lift over 1,000 pounds. His reflexes are 50 times faster than a human's. If he felt threatened, he could kill you before you even blinked." "I'm not going to threaten him," Jiho said. "I just want to, I don't know. Try something different." "Different how?" Jiho did not answer. The idea in his head was still forming. He thanked Hana and left the lab. He spent the rest of the day thinking while he worked. By evening, he had made a decision. In his quarters, Jiho opened his personal storage box. Inside were items from Earth. Most engineers brought practical things, tools, spare parts, technical manuals. Jiho had brought memories, a photo of his family, a music player with old songs, and a small wooden puzzle box his grandfather had made. The puzzle box was special. His grandfather had carved it by hand, covering it with intricate patterns. To open it, you had to press the panels in a specific order. Jiho had solved it once years ago. It had taken him 3 days. He held the box in his hands. It was smooth and warm. It smelled like wood and home. His grandfather had told him, "Give this to someone who needs to remember that problems have solutions. But you have to be patient." Kael'thar needed patience, and maybe, just maybe, he needed a problem to solve. Something that was not about war or survival or fear, just a simple puzzle. Jiho walked through the corridors until he found Kael'thar's assigned quarters. The door was closed. He could hear nothing from inside. For a moment, his courage failed. This was stupid. What was he thinking? Kael'thar probably did not care about human toys. But then he thought about those glowing eyes looking at the earth flowers. About the gentle way the ancient warrior touched the observation deck glass. About being alone for 3,000 years. Jiho placed the puzzle box on the floor in front of the door. He did not knock. He did not leave a note. He just put it there and walked away quickly, his heart pounding. That night, he barely slept again. What if Kael'thar thought it was a weapon? What if he destroyed it? What if he was angry? The next morning, Jiho went to his workstation. His supervisor, an older woman named Suji, was already there. She was checking inventory lists and frowning. "Morning," she said without looking up. "We've got a power fluctuation in Section 7. "Go fix it." "Okay," Jiho said. He gathered his tools. As he reached for his diagnostic scanner, he saw something on his desk, the puzzle box. Jiho's breath caught. He picked it up carefully. The box was open. All the panels had been moved in the correct sequence. But that was not all. Inside the box, where Jiho had kept a small photo, there was now something else, a crystal. It was about the size of his thumb, perfectly smooth, and it glowed with a faint blue light. "What's that?" Suji asked, looking over. I don't know," Jiho said. But he was lying. He knew exactly what it was. It was a response. Kael'thar had not only solved the puzzle, he had left something in return. Jiho's hands shook as he touched the crystal. The moment his finger made contact, light burst from it. A hologram appeared in the air above his desk. It showed a star map, but not like any he had seen before. These were old stars, arranged in patterns that no longer existed. "Jiho, what is that?" Suji demanded. She stood up, staring at the hologram. I think it's a Velkari star map," Jiho whispered. The hologram rotated slowly, As it moved, small symbols appeared next to certain stars. They were the same symbols Jiho had seen carved into Kael'thar's armor, a written language that no one could read anymore. "Where did you get this?" Suji asked. Her voice was sharp now, suspicious. Jiho told her the truth. He explained about the puzzle box, about leaving it at Kael'thar's door, about finding it returned with the crystal inside. Suji stared at him like he had grown a second head. "You left something at Kael'thar's door? Are you insane? Commander Taeyang will have you shipped back to Earth if he finds out." "He's not dangerous," Jiho said. "Look at this." He solved the puzzle. He left a response. "That's not the action of a mindless weapon. That's communication, or manipulation," Suji said, but she sounded less certain. She leaned closer to the hologram, studying it. "These star patterns. I've never seen anything like this." "Because they're from 3,000 years ago," Jiho said. "The stars have moved since then. Hana might be able to decode this." "You're really going to pursue this?" Suji asked. "Getting involved with Kael'thar?" Jiho looked at the crystal in his hand. Through it, he could see the blue glow pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat. He responded, he said quietly. "For 3 months, he's ignored everyone. But he responded to me. I can't just ignore that," Suji sighed. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Fine. But I'm coming with you when you see Hana. If this goes wrong, I want witnesses that it wasn't entirely your fault." They found Hana in the same lab as before. When they showed her the crystal and the hologram, her eyes went wide. "This is impossible," she breathed. "Where did you get this?" Jiho explained again. Hana listened without interrupting. When he finished, she sat down heavily. "Do you understand what this means?" she asked. "This crystal is Velkari technology. It's priceless. And he just gave it to you." "I gave him something first," Jiho said. "A puzzle box," Hana said flatly. "You gave him a wooden puzzle box and he responded with ancient alien technology. Is that bad?" "Bad? No. Unprecedented?" "Yes." Hana took the crystal carefully and placed it on her analysis table. Scanners hummed to life around it. "I'll need time to study this properly. These star patterns could tell us where the Velkari came from originally, maybe even why they disappeared. Can I keep leaving things for him?" Jiho asked. Both women looked at him. Suji shook her head slowly. Hana bit her lip. "Commander Taeyang won't like it," Hana said. "But maybe you should. This is the first breakthrough we've had with Kael'thar. If you found a way to communicate, we need to explore it. Just be careful," Suji added. "Don't get too close." "Don't assume you're safe," Jiho nodded. But inside he felt something different. He did not feel afraid anymore. He felt hopeful. Somewhere inside that ancient armor there was a person, someone who solved puzzles, someone who gave gifts, someone who remembered. That night, Jiho prepared another item to leave at Kael'thar's door. This time it was his music player. He set it to play one song on repeat, an old earth folk melody about travelers far from home. He hoped Kael'thar would understand. They were both far from home now, both the last of something lost. But maybe they did not have to be alone. The music player came back 3 days later. Jiho found it on his desk again, appearing as mysteriously as the crystal had. But this time it was different. The device had been modified. Thin silver wires wrapped around it in patterns that looked both random and purposeful. When Jiho turned it on, the song played differently. New notes had been added, woven into the melody. They were strange but beautiful, like hearing wind chimes from another world. Suji heard it when she came to work. She stopped in the doorway, listening. "He added music to your music," she said. There was wonder in her voice. Jiho nodded. He could not speak. Something about the modified song made his throat tight. Kael'thar had not just listened. He had understood, and he had replied in the only language that needed no translation. "You're really doing this," Suji said. It was not a question. "Yes." "Okay," she said after a moment. "Then I'm helping. What are you leaving next?" Over the following weeks, Jiho and Kael'thar continued their strange exchange. Jiho left mathematical puzzles. The ancient warrior returned them solved with additional equations that Earth mathematicians had never seen. He left drawings of Earth landscapes. Kael'thar sent back sketches of alien worlds with 3 suns and floating mountains. He left samples of Earth food. Kael'thar returned them untouched but with notes in his own language. Hana worked tirelessly to decode the Velkari writing. She made progress slowly, learning one symbol at a time. The language was complex, built on concepts that did not exist in human thinking. But she persisted. "This symbol means memory keeper," she explained one evening, showing Jiho her notes. "But it's not just someone who remembers. It's someone who carries the weight of remembering. Someone responsible for keeping the past alive." "Like Kael'thar," Jiho said. "Exactly like Kael'thar," Hana agreed. "I think that's what he was. Not just a warrior. He was meant to preserve their culture." Jiho thought about that. What would it be like to be the only keeper of an entire civilization's memories? Every song, every story, every piece of knowledge, all resting on one person's shoulders. It seemed unbearably heavy. He decided his next gift carefully. He found a blank journal in the station's supply room. The pages were real paper, rare and expensive in space. On the first page he wrote in simple words, "Your stories matter. If you want to share them, I will listen." He left it at Kael'thar's door and waited. This time the response took longer. 5 days passed with nothing. Jiho began to worry. Had he overstepped? Was asking for stories too personal, too painful? On the 6th day, the journal appeared on his desk. Jiho opened it with trembling hands. The pages were filled with drawings. Detailed, beautiful drawings of Velkari life. There were cities with towers that curved like growing plants. Markets filled with beings like Kael'thar, their forearms carrying goods or embracing each other. Children, smaller versions with fewer armor plates, playing games under purple skies. Festivals with lights and music. Quiet moments of Velkari reading together, teaching together, simply being together. And on the last page, a single drawing stood alone. It showed a Velkari warrior standing in an empty room, surrounded by closed stasis pods. The figure was pressing one hand to a control panel. Above the drawing, Kael'thar had written symbols. Thanks to Hana's work, Jiho could read some of them now. To wake alone, so others might sleep in peace. Jiho's eyes burned. He understood now. Kael'thar had put himself in stasis voluntarily. He had chosen to be the one who woke to an unknown future. He had sacrificed himself so others would not have to face whatever darkness was coming. But the darkness had taken everyone anyway. And Kael'thar's sacrifice had left him the only survivor. "Suji," Jiho said quietly. His co-worker looked up from her work. "I need to see him. Not leave things at his door. Actually see him." "That's a terrible idea," Suji said automatically. But then she saw the journal in his hands. She walked over and looked at the drawings. Her expression softened. "Oh, he's not dangerous," Jiho said. "He's grieving. And he's been alone long enough." Suji was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Do you know where he'll be?" "The observation deck. He goes there every morning." "Then let's go tomorrow," Suji said. "But I'm coming with you. And so is Hana. If this goes wrong, you'll need backup." That night, Jiho could not sleep again. He rehearsed what he would say 100 times in his head. But every version sounded wrong. How did you talk to someone who had lost everything? How did you comfort grief that was 3,000 years old? In the end, he decided to just be honest. It was the only thing that had worked so far. Morning came too quickly. Jiho, Suji, and Hana met outside the observation deck. Through the glass walls, they could see Kael'thar standing alone, looking out at the stars. "Last chance to back out," Suji said. "No backing out," Jiho replied. He pushed the door open. The sound made Kael'thar turn, his glowing eyes fixed on the three humans. His forearms tensed. For a moment, Jiho thought the ancient warrior might flee or attack, but then Kael'thar saw what Jiho was carrying. The journal, the music player, the puzzle box, all the things they had exchanged. Kael'thar went very still. Jiho walked forward slowly. He stopped about 5 meters away, giving Kael'thar space. Suji and Hana stayed by the door, watching nervously. "Hello," Jiho said. His voice shook slightly. "My name is Jiho. I'm the one who's been leaving things for you." Kael'thar did not respond, but his eyes tracked Jiho's every movement. "I wanted to thank you," Jiho continued, "for the crystal, for the music, for the drawings. They're beautiful. Your world was beautiful, still nothing." But Kael'thar's head tilted slightly, the way it had that first time in the corridor. Jiho took a breath. "This was the hard part. I know what it's like to lose people. Not like you have. I can't imagine that, but 5 years ago, the colony where my family lived was destroyed. Equipment failure. Everyone died except me. I was off station studying. Behind him, he heard Suji's sharp intake of breath. He had never told anyone that story before. For a long time I was angry, Jiho said. Angry that I survived when they did not. Angry that I had to keep going when I wanted to stop. Angry that no one understood what it felt like to be the only one left. Kael'thar's arms relaxed slightly. He was listening. But then I realized something, Jiho said. Being the last one left means you're the keeper of memories. You're the only one who remembers their favorite songs, their jokes, the way they laughed. And that's important. That's sacred. Even if it hurts, Kael'thar made a sound. It was soft, almost like a sigh, but deeper, resonating in a way human voices could not match. I don't know if you want to share those memories, Jiho said. Maybe it's too painful. But if you do, I'll listen. We'll listen. He gestured to Suji and Hana. Your people should be remembered, not as warriors or ancient aliens or scary things in corridors, but as people. As beings who lived and loved and created beautiful things. Kael'thar took a step forward. Then another. He moved slowly, carefully until he stood directly in front of Jiho. This close, he was enormous. His armor reflected the starlight from the observation window. The symbols carved into it seemed to glow faintly. One of his 4 hands rose. Jiho forced himself not to flinch. The hand reached out not toward Jiho but toward the journal. A clawed finger pointed at the drawing on the last page. The warrior standing alone among the stasis pods. Then Kael'thar's hand moved to his own chest, tapping the armor above where his heart would be. That's you, Jiho said quietly. You are the one who stayed awake. Kael'thar's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. A blink maybe, or something like sadness. His hand moved again, pointing at the drawing of the festival, then at the empty space around them. The meaning was clear. This is what was. This is what is now. I'm sorry, Jiho said. I'm so sorry. Kael'thar stood motionless for a long moment. Then something happened that made everyone in the room freeze. The ancient warrior knelt down. Slowly, carefully, he lowered himself until his eyes were level with Jiho's. This close, Jiho could see details he had never noticed before. Tiny scars in the armor. Patterns that might have been decorative or might have been rank insignia. And in those glowing eyes, exhaustion. Deep, soul-crushing exhaustion. Kael'thar reached into a compartment in his armor and pulled out a small device. It looked old, damaged. He pressed it against his throat and spoke. The device crackled and hissed. Then words came out, translated into human language but broken, fragmented. You see me. 3 words, but they carried the weight of 3,000 years. Yes, Jiho said, his vision blurred with tears. I see you. Kael'thar's hand rose again. This time it touched Jiho's shoulder, gently, carefully, the way you would touch something precious and fragile. The ancient warrior spoke again through the damaged translator. Not weapon, not monster, just tired. I know, Jiho said. I know you're tired. They stayed like that for a moment that felt like forever. An ancient alien and a young human, connected by grief and understanding. Around them, Suji wiped her eyes. Hana had her hand over her mouth, trying not to sob. Finally, Kael'thar stood. He gestured toward the stars outside the observation window. Then he touched his translator again. Show me your world. Tell me stories. I give mine, trade memory for memory. Jiho smiled through his tears. Yes, I'd like that very much. Kael'thar's eyes brightened. Maybe the Velkari version of a smile. News of Jiho's success spread through the station like electricity through wires. Within days, everyone knew that the young engineer had made contact with Kael'thar. Some people thought he was brave. Others thought he was foolish. But everyone was curious. Commander Taiyang called Jiho to his office on the 3rd day after the observation deck meeting. Taiyang was a stern man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had been a military officer before becoming station commander, and it showed in the way he held himself. Sit down, Taiyang said when Jiho entered. Jiho sat. His stomach felt tight with nervousness. I've heard interesting reports about you, Taiyang said. He did not sound angry, but he did not sound happy either. Approaching Kael'thar without authorization? Establishing communication. Some might call that reckless. Sir, Taiyang held up a hand. But others might call it exactly what we needed. The Galactic Confederation has been pressuring me for months. They want Kael'thar contained or controlled or put back in stasis. They're afraid of what he represents. Unknown power, unknown intentions. He's not dangerous, Jiho said quickly. You don't know that for certain, Taeyang replied. None of us do, but you've made more progress with him in a few weeks than our entire diplomatic corps made in 3 months. So I'm giving you official clearance to continue your contact. With conditions. What conditions? You report everything he tells you to Hana for analysis. You never meet with him alone. Always have at least one other person present. And if he shows any signs of aggression, you back away immediately. Understood? Yes, sir. Taeyang's expression softened slightly. I read your file, Jiho. I know about the colony. About your family. I'm sorry for your loss. And I understand why you might feel connected to Kael'thar. Just be careful. Grief can make us see what we want to see. Jiho nodded. But he knew what he had seen in Kael'thar's eyes was real. Over the next weeks, a routine developed. Every morning, Jiho met Kael'thar in the observation deck. Sometimes Suji came, sometimes Hana, sometimes both. They would talk. Or rather, Jiho would talk and Kael'thar would respond through his damaged translator. One painful word at a time, Kael'thar learned about Earth, about oceans and mountains and the smell of rain, about human music and human food and human mistakes. Jiho showed him videos of children playing, of cities at night, of forests in autumn. In return, Kael'thar shared memories of his world. He drew more pictures. He hummed songs and frequencies that made human bones vibrate. He demonstrated Velkari combat forms, beautiful flowing movements that looked like a dance. But mostly they shared silence. Comfortable silence. The kind that only exists between people who understand each other. Hana made breakthrough after breakthrough with the Velkari language. Working with Kael'thar's help, she decoded more symbols each day. The ancient warrior seemed relieved to have someone interested in preserving his culture. He spent hours with her, teaching her proper pronunciation, correcting her grammar. It's incredible, Hana told Jiho one evening. His language has concepts we don't have words for. Like this one, she showed him a complex symbol. It means the sadness of being strong enough to protect everyone except those you love most. One symbol. One concept. We'd need a whole sentence to express that. Does he talk about what happened? Jiho asked. To his people? Hana's face darkened. Some, but it's hard for him. His translator can't handle emotional concepts well. Everything comes out flat, mechanical. Imagine trying to explain the death of your entire species through a broken machine. Jiho could not imagine. He did not want to. Not everyone was happy about the growing relationship between Jiho and Kael'thar. A security officer named Doyen made his disapproval clear whenever they crossed paths. You're making a mistake, Doyen said one day, blocking Jiho's path in the corridor. Treating that thing like it's a person. He is a person, Jiho replied. It's a weapon, Doyen insisted. A 3,000-year-old weapon that could kill everyone on this station if it wanted to. And you're teaching it about us. Teaching it our weaknesses. He's not. You don't know what he is, Doyen interrupted. None of us do. For all we know, he's playing you, getting you to trust him before he strikes. Jiho wanted to argue more, but Doyen walked away. The security officer's words stayed with him, though. Was he being naive? Was his desire to help Kael'thar blinding him to potential danger? That night he asked Kael'thar directly. They were in the observation deck watching a distant nebula glow purple and gold. Are we safe with you? Jiho asked. The people on the station. Are we in danger? Kael'thar was quiet for a long time. His translator crackled when he finally spoke. I could hurt you. Easy. Any of you. He held up one of his 4 hands, flexing the claws. Strong, fast, made for war. Jiho's heart beat faster, but he waited for Kael'thar to continue. But why? Kael'thar's eyes glowed brighter. You not enemy, you not threat, you kind. First kind in 3,000 years. He turned to face Jiho fully. My God, people, gone. War, gone. Purpose, gone. Only memory left. You help keep memory alive. Why? Hurt. That? Some people don't understand, Jiho said. They're afraid because they don't know you. Fear. Logical, Kael'thar said. I am strange, I am powerful. Fear and keeps creatures safe. But not all strangers are enemies. No, Kael'thar agreed. Some are friends. The word friends came out clearer than most words through his translator, as if the device had learned it through repetition. Jiho smiled. Yes, friends. They turned back to the window. In the reflection, Jiho could see other crew members passing by in the corridor behind them. Some glanced at Kael'thar nervously, others stared openly, but a few, just a few, nodded at Jiho approvingly. Change was slow, but it was happening. Then everything went wrong. It started with the alarms. Loud piercing sirens that shattered the peaceful morning. Jiho was in his quarters when they began. He ran to his workstation, checking his diagnostic panel. Suji was already there, her face pale. We've got incoming ships. 3 of them. Void Reavers. Jiho's blood ran cold. Void Reavers were space pirates feared throughout the galaxy. They attacked stations and colonies, taking whatever they wanted and killing anyone who resisted. How long until they arrive? He asked. 20 minutes, Suji said. Commander Tae Yang has ordered all non-essential personnel to the evacuation shuttles. What about the defense systems? Already firing. But our weapons are old. The Reaver's ships are heavily armored. It's not looking good. Jiho heard the sounds of panic in the corridors. People running, shouting, crying. Families heading for the evacuation bays. Security teams scrambling to defensive positions. He thought about Kael'thar. Where was the ancient warrior? Was he being evacuated too? I have to find him, Jiho said. Find who? Suji asked. Then understanding dawned on her face. No. Jiho, we need to evacuate now. I have to make sure he's safe. He's the safest person on this station. Suji grabbed his arm. He's survived 3,000 years. He'll be fine. But Jiho shook her off and ran. He sprinted through corridors filled with frightened people. He checked the observation deck, empty. The cafeteria, empty. Finally, he found Kael'thar in his quarters. The ancient warrior stood in the center of the room, perfectly still, head tilted as if listening to something far away. Kael'thar, Jiho gasped out of breath. There's an attack. We have to evacuate. Kael'thar turned to look at him. Attack? The word came out clear. His translator must be improving. Pirates. Void Reavers. They're coming. Kael'thar walked to the window. His eyes narrowed, focusing on something in the distance. Then he turned back to Jiho. When he spoke, his voice was different, stronger, clearer. You showed me kindness first in long time. He moved to a storage panel and opened it. Inside was his armor. Different armor, more elaborate, covered in weapons. Now, I show you what I am. What do you mean? Jiho asked. Kael'thar began putting on the combat armor. Each piece clicked into place with practiced efficiency. I am Velkari. I am warrior. I am protector. He looked at Jiho, and for the first time, Jiho saw something new in those glowing eyes. Not sadness, not exhaustion, purpose. Your kindness gave me reason, something, worth protecting. Someone who sees me as person. Kael'thar finished arming himself. He looked terrifying and magnificent at the same time. You asked if safe. Yes, I make safe. The station shook as the first weapons fire struck the shields. Alarms screamed louder. Kael'thar walked toward the door. He paused beside Jiho and placed one gentle hand on his shoulder. Thank you, friend, Jiho, for teaching me. Not alone. Then he was gone, moving faster than Jiho had ever seen him move. The ancient warrior disappeared down the corridor, heading toward the hull breach where the Void Reavers would enter. Jiho stood frozen for a moment. Then he heard Suji's voice in his communicator. Jiho, where are you? We need to go. But Jiho could not leave, not yet. He had to see what happened. He had to know if Kael'thar would be okay. He ran toward the security station where monitors showed every part of the station. What he saw there would change everything. The security monitors showed chaos. 3 Void Reaver ships had attached themselves to the station like parasites. Metal claws tore through the outer hull. Armored raiders poured into the corridors, their weapons firing at anything that moved. Commander Taeyang stood at the command center, his face grim. Security teams fought back, but they were outnumbered. The station's defensive systems were failing. On one screen, Jiho watched terrified families trying to reach the evacuation bays while pirates chased them down. Then, on the monitor showing Corridor 7, something appeared. Kael'thar. The ancient warrior moved like water and lightning combined. His forearms held weapons Jiho had never seen before. Blades that glowed with blue energy, a staff that crackled with electricity. But more than the weapons, it was the way he moved. 3,000 years of combat experience flowing through every motion. The first group of Void Reavers saw him and opened fire. Kael'thar's armor deflected their shots like rain off stone. He closed the distance between them in seconds. What happened next was almost too fast to see. Arms moving in patterns that seemed impossible. Raiders falling, weapons clattering to the floor. What is that thing? One of Taiyang's officers gasped. That's Kael'thar, Jiho said quietly. That's what everyone was afraid of. But Kael'thar was not killing. Jiho realized that with shock. The ancient warrior was disarming and disabling the raiders, not slaughtering them. Even in combat, even facing enemies who would show no mercy, he was choosing restraint. Commander, Jiho said urgently. He's trying to help. We need to coordinate with him. Taiyang stared at the monitors. Another group of raiders had broken through near the residential section where families were sheltering. Before the security teams could respond, Kael'thar was there. He moved between the civilians and the pirates, his forearms spread wide in a protective stance. Get me a communication line to him, Taiyang ordered. Now, Hana rushed to a console. His translator is still damaged. Text might work better than voice. Do it, Taiyang said. Hana typed quickly. On the monitor, they saw Kael'thar's armor light up with text. He read it, then looked directly at a security camera. He nodded once. He understands, Hana said. He's asking for tactical information. What followed was the strangest battle coordination Jiho had ever witnessed. Taiyang sent text messages describing where raiders were breaking through. Kael'thar responded with simple symbols. Understood, moving, need backup. The security teams learned to work with him, providing covering fire while he dealt with the most dangerous threats. Suji appeared at Jiho's side. Is that really him? Our quiet friend from the observation deck? That's what he was, Jiho said. Before his people died, before he was alone, he was their protector. On the monitors, Kael'thar had reached the main breach point. Dozens of raiders were trying to force their way through. The ancient warrior stood at the narrow opening, becoming a living wall. His weapons moved in patterns that were both deadly and beautiful. Raiders who got too close found themselves thrown back, unconscious but alive. He's holding them, an officer said in disbelief. Alone, he's holding off 30 raiders alone. But Kael'thar was not alone anymore. Security teams arrived, setting up positions behind him. They fired over his shoulders through gaps in his defense. Working together, human and alien, they pushed the raiders back. The other 2 breach points are secured, another officer reported. This is the last one. Jiho watched Kael'thar fight. Even through the monitor, even with damaged armor and a translator that barely worked, the ancient warrior was magnificent. But he also saw something else. Kael'thar was slowing down, 3,000 years old, fighting dozens of enemies, protecting thousands of people he barely knew. He was getting tired. He needs help, Jiho said. He's exhausted. All security teams to Corridor 7, Taiyang ordered. Now overwhelming force. And this. The station's remaining defenders converged on the last breach point. Faced with coordinated resistance and Kael'thar's relentless defense, the Void Reavers finally broke. They retreated to their ships, cutting the connections and fleeing into space. The station's few remaining weapons drove them away. Silence fell. The alarms stopped. For a moment, no one moved. Then cheering erupted in the command center. But Jiho was not cheering. He was running. He ran through corridors filled with relieved civilians. He ran past security teams celebrating their victory. He ran until he reached Corridor 7. Kael'thar stood alone among unconscious raiders and scattered weapons. His armor was scorched and dented. His blood dripped from several wounds. But he was standing. Still standing. When he saw Jiho, something in his posture relaxed. He took one step forward, then his legs buckled. Jiho ran to him, catching one of his massive arms and trying to support him. You did it, Jiho said. You saved everyone. Kael'thar's translator crackled. His voice came through, clearer than it had ever been. Perhaps the combat had knocked something back into place, or perhaps he had finally found the words he needed. Not weapon, not alone, had reason to fight. He looked at Jiho with those glowing eyes. Had a friend to protect. Medical teams arrived along with Hana and Suji. They helped Kael'thar to the medical bay despite his protests that he would heal on his own. Word spread through the station faster than electricity. The ancient warrior everyone had feared had saved them all. In the days that followed, everything changed. Crew members who had once fled from Kael'thar's presence now approached him with gratitude. Children drew pictures of him as a hero. Engineers worked to repair his damaged armor. Hana finally fixed his translator properly, giving him a clear voice for the first time since his awakening. Doyun, the security officer who had questioned Jiho's judgment, came to apologize. "I was wrong," he said simply. "About him. About you. Thank you for seeing what we couldn't." Commander Taeyang called another meeting. This time his expression was warm. The Galactic Confederation has withdrawn their request to put Kael'thar in stasis. In fact, they're offering him something else. A position. What kind of position? Jiho asked. Guardian and teacher, Taeyang said. They want him to share the knowledge of his people, to train others in Velkari combat and philosophy, to preserve his culture by passing it forward. Jiho looked at Kael'thar. "What do you think?" Kael'thar stood straighter. His new voice, clear and deep, resonated in the room. "For 3,000 years I carried my people's memories alone. It was a burden too heavy for one being. But if I can share that burden, if I can teach others to remember the Velkari not as ghosts but as teachers, then my people truly live on." He turned to Jiho. "But I have a condition. Jiho must be my assistant. He saw me first. He understood first. He should be there when I teach others to understand." Jiho felt his eyes burn with tears. "I'd be honored." The first class began a week later. A young cadet named Yuna arrived nervously, clutching her training pad. She was the first of many who would come to learn from Kael'thar. She stood at attention when he entered, clearly trying not to look frightened. Kael'thar approached her slowly. Then he did something no one expected. He knelt down to her level, making himself smaller, less intimidating. "I know I look frightening," he said in his new clear voice. "Many beings find the Velkari appearance disturbing. But appearance is not truth. A warrior's true strength comes not from their weapons or their armor. It comes from who they choose to protect and why." Yuna's fear faded. She stepped closer. "What was your people's greatest teaching?" Kael'thar was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "We believe that to be strong alone is to be weak. True strength is found in connection, in caring for others, in being brave enough to be vulnerable." He looked at Jiho. "A young human taught me that lesson when I had forgotten it." Jiho smiled. "You taught me too. You taught me that grief doesn't have to be carried alone, that it's okay to need people. That being the last one left doesn't mean being alone forever." Classes continued. More students came. Scientists, warriors, diplomats, artists. Kael'thar taught them Velkari combat forms, but also Velkari poetry. Battle strategies, but also meditation techniques. Ways to fight, but also ways to make peace. The observation deck became a gathering place. Where once Kael'thar had stood alone, now groups assembled. Humans and aliens of all species, learning from the ancient warrior who had learned to trust again. One evening, months after the Void Reaver attack, Jiho and Kael'thar sat together in their usual spot by the window. Stars drifted past outside. The station hummed with life around them. "Do you still miss them?" Jiho asked. "Your people?" "Every day," Kael'thar said. His voice was soft. "Every moment. The pain of loss never truly fades, but it changes. It becomes part of you instead of being all of you." "What changed it for you?" Kael'thar looked at him. "You did. You and Suji and Hana and everyone who chose to see me as a person instead of a monster. You gave me something I thought I had lost forever: purpose, connection, hope." "You gave us something too," Jiho said. "You showed us that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being kind even when you're hurting, about protecting others even when you've lost everything. Perhaps that is what humans and Velkari have in common," Kael'thar said. "The belief that reaching out is worth the risk of pain. That isolation, while safe, is not the same as peace."